Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Unturned Pages. So tonight's going to be a little bit different. Here at Unturned Pages, we always try to bring a variety of things to you, and tonight is no different. Tonight is going to be a very special night. Jenny and I have always tried to bring a very eclectic and variety of people for obvious reasons to keep your interest and also to make sure we have something everybody likes. So for all you true crime fanatics out there tonight, we definitely have a great show that you're going to want to watch for sure. So without further ado, I would like to welcome our guest tonight, Mr. Scott Bowser, who is dive down the rabbit hole of what is Ed Gein.
Hello.
Hello, Scott. How are we doing tonight, sir?
Well, nice intro.
I tried to.
Hi, Darren.
Hey, Darren, what's going on, bud? All right, so Scott, tell us a little bit about how you kind of got into the whole idea of deep diving down this rabbit hole of what is Ed Gein, which is known as one of America's most prolific killers. Many horror icons have been based off of the stories and tribulations and things that this iconic man has done. And I even hate to say the word iconic referring to somebody that is so horrid.
Yeah. I actually live like 30 miles away from Plainfield, which really helps because I get to go there whenever I want. But like I was saying, back in 2013, I was driving a semi through Plainfield. That's when I first started to learn about the guy, Ed Gein. So I basically started researching him at that point in time, got really interested. And like I said, being really close to Plainfield really helped out a lot because I could really investigate on my own and get a lot of information off of that. So a couple of years ago, I decided that somebody actually told me why don't you write a book? I was like, I got all the information, why not? And I actually wrote it in a few months, got her published. So that's how it all happened.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, I'm the same way, kind of like I get super fixated on a subject, and I kind of go down that deep dive rabbit hole, and I don't give it up till it's done. And for you writing an entire book in just a couple of months, that's very, very impressive.
Yeah, I worked on it night and day. The time I woke up till the time I went to bed at night, lived and breathed it. Yep, I got obsessed.
That's amazing. That is absolutely amazing. So, so tell us a little bit for the people out there that don't know who Mr. Ed Gein is and what he was known by, when he was born, like kind of, that kind of little rundown on him. And then we'll kind of deep dive into his heinous acts as we get further into the show.
Okay. Hi, Shelly. Anyways, Ed Gein was basically a grave robber, and he had it right away. As he basically skinned his victims to make a skin suit. So they like to dress up like his mother, and that's how he's mostly known for. He robbed 10 graves around the Plainfield area, and he ended up killing 2 of the women himself. And that's how he got caught. Nice picture.
we gotta love Jenny in the background. She's not camera ready tonight, but she's there in spirit to being in the producer role.
Yeah, I just talked to her actually.
Not surprised.
Yeah,
but that's the original farmhouse.
Yep, that was after he's caught.
Now, something that's very interesting to me.
Hi, Tom.
Is so after he was already arrested, the day his farmhouse was set to be auctioned, somehow miraculously it was destroyed in a fire.
Yes.
And his reaction to it was just kind of like, okay.
Yeah, there's a big story behind that because after his house, the house was burning, for some ungodly reason, the fire truck wouldn't start.
Really?
Nobody really tried to fix it for quite a while.
So they kind of were just like, hey, it's burning. All right, let it go.
Well, a lot of people say some of the town's folks started it on fire, so it was all premeditated.
Well, that's kind of like the whole story behind Jeffrey Dahmer. After everything was done with him, after everything was taken out of his apartment, a local furniture business ownership bought all the products in auction and took it straight to the junkyard and had it ran over by a bulldozer, so no one else could ever own anything from that.
Well, it basically Arthur Schley, the sheriff of Plainfield, basically had the town of Plainfield take all the debris from the house, bring it to the dump, and stand there and watch it burn, make sure it was gone.
I mean, you got to think back in the 50s and everything like that. That's kind of a normal, like, book burning ceremony, I almost guess you could say.
Pretty much.
Kind of like, hey, once it's gone, it's gone.
Yeah.
So, I mean, but that's, I just think that's very, I haven't heard the part about the fire truck, though. So that's very actually interesting. Do you think there were, do you think there were, what's the word I'm looking for? Otherworldly, and I don't want to use the word supernatural, but I guess afflictions for that to be able to happen, other sources for that to be able to happen, whether it be somebody smoking around the house and just being like, oh, okay.
No, we know somebody lit the fire because the house had no electricity, so there's no way it should have burnt.
Yeah, so there's no way there would be an short. Okay.
Yep.
All right. No way. All right. That's very interesting. Okay. So what is Mr. Gein known to as a he's gone by many names, he's known by many names. What's his most prolific name that he has gone by?
Plainfield Butcher. That'd be the one that comes to mind.
Okay. All right. So you have the Plainfield Butcher, and that was in Plainfield, Wisconsin?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Ooh, the headstone they can't find.
Yeah, I heard that was actually stolen in 2000 and then recovered somewhere near Seattle in 2001, and now is in some museum.
No, it was in a museum at one point, but the town of Plainfield wanted it back. And right now, the headstone is currently in Clover, Wisconsin, in one of the cemetery board members' basement.
Oh,
but they won't give it back. And the last I heard is they want to bury it. But that's
they're holding it. They're holding it hostage, so to say. I guess you could say.
Yeah, supposedly I could probably find the guy's name out if I really tried. But
how much work are you really going to put into doing that?
A lot, if I want.
I mean, you know what? To own the gravestone of Ed Gein, that would be that'd be something.
I'd bring it back to the museum. I mean, they want it. I mean, they could put it behind bars where nobody can touch it and chip away at it.
Yeah. Well, because you know how it is these days with all true crime fanatics and serial killer fanatics and everything. You know, anybody that can get a piece of anything.
Yeah.
You know, whether it be a wooden tile from a haunted building or, you know, whatever they can get.
That's right. It was actually last summer I got a hold of Mary Hogan's gravesite, and I'm worried about people chipping away at that stone now. So I'm going to keep my eye on it.
All right. So.
You freeze up?
Yeah. I kind of. Yeah. There we go. So. Tell us a little bit about the fascination with Ed's mother and kind of his upbringing a little bit, I guess.
No, Augusta was a devout Lutheran, and basically she ruled the house 100%. Every day they'd have to basically hear Bible verses from her, and she ruled the house with an iron fist. The boys weren't allowed to associate outside the house unless they're working or going to school. Otherwise, they stayed on the farm and worked around the farm. And that's the way she was, and she totally didn't like people, especially women. She thought they're whores, and she didn't want her sons around that stuff. That's the way she was.
So there was a story that I did read that Ed did, and for anybody listening, all 6 of you out there, I'm assuming there's probably more, but there was a story I did read that Ed caught his mother in the bathtub doing some unsavory things. And then blamed it on him, making him out to be the bad person because she said that she was overcome by the demons and this and that and whatnot.
I heard the opposite. It was him in the bathtub.
Oh.
And
Okay.
she caught him.
See,
So,
I heard the first time, and I will say this: the one article I did read, because I did do my research today, and
mhm.
one of the articles I did read was he said that the during an interview at one time, the first time he ever obtained an erection was watching his mother and father slaughter a pig.
Yeah, that was back when they had Ed Gein Mercantile in La Crosse. Basically, Augusta owned it, and her husband were in the back slaughtering a hog, and Ed just happened to be watching, and he liked it. That's the story.
Now, also to kind of piggyback off that, no pun intended. Um, there's also the stories of Ed being a necrophiliac. Now, there are many variations of necrophilia. It doesn't have to be actual physical contact with a dead corpse. It could just be the comfort of having that dead corpse there.
Well, when he mutilated the bodies, he actually cut off the women's vulvas. He'd actually wear them. And the only time that he said he thought about having sex with the bodies, but they smelled bad because of formaldehyde. But after he killed Bernice Ward, he said he did try to have sex with her, but he couldn't get an erection. So that's the story.
Okay, all right. I mean,
That along with eating the meat too. He says he couldn't because it stunk.
uh,
Oh,
now, okay. So here's a question. We'll kick this right off. So Ed Gein, throughout the years, I mean, I know he died in 1984, and he was never he was convicted of one,
yes,
confessed to two,
yes.
but in the house, when the police searched, they found over 40 different bodies. Now, do you think that was all from grave robbing, or do you think there are some other people that may have gone missing that were never reported?
Well, it wasn't 40 people. They found 10 face masks basically and skulls.
Okay.
So there are 10 women that he dug up, and the two bodies. Well, one of the heads was Mary Hogan's, which was the first victim he actually killed. Then Bernice Warden was the last one where he got caught. But what you're trying to reference is the fact that he did make 40 nocturnal visits to the grave sites and actually dug people up, but he didn't take them.
Okay.
That's what he confessed to.
Okay. All right. So adding to his long list of his repertoire here, grave robbing was one. So he did confess to digging up at least 40 bodies, but not taking all 40.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Now, how did he go about doing the grave digging? Was it fresh bodies? Was it people that have been buried for a while? Was he working in cahoots with anybody?
Oh, he was by himself. Basically, what he did is he watched the obituaries, and if somebody died that was right around his mother's age, remind him of his mother, he'd go out the next either that same night or the next night and go for the body. And what he did is when he stood over the gravesite, he put a piece of re-rod down into the ground, and he tapped on top of the grave or on top of the casket, so he could hear if it was wood or if it was fiberglass. He could not get into the fiberglass ones, but he could the wood ones.
Yep.
So that's the only way he could get down there, and that's how he did it.
Oh wow. Okay. Shelly in the chat room saying that her mom knew Bernice from the
Really?
hardware store, and they used to have conversations.
Now we need to talk, Shelly.
Yeah, Shelly, that'd be some interesting stories there. I'd love to hear some more about that. That'd be awesome.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
but I mean, what essentially led to Ed Gein's downfall?
Basically, I thought it was his mother dying. The way he's pretty much being taken care of by his mother, not be able to get out in public, always staying around the farmhouse, taking care of mother. I mean, after Henry died, basically your mother was to himself. And then she had her stroke, and he had to take care of her, and I think that pretty much did everything to him. And when she had the second stroke, she died. And then he's by himself, and he missed his mother so much, so he kind of wanted to become his mother and act like her mother, his mother.
Well, being in such a sheltered environment. I mean, because I heard that he wasn't even allowed to leave the farmhouse except to go to school, and even then, that was kind of spotty at times.
Yeah, but he did go help people out. He babysat and stuff.
That's what makes it very interesting that he was actually a babysitter. Like that, hearing something like that, like one of the hearing the claims come out in the future and looking back and going, oh, I trusted my kids with this person.
He was actually a good babysitter because I thought, it says he could relate more with the children than he could with adults.
Now, do you think he was more of a simpleton than anything else?
Yeah, but the guy was pretty simple, but he was smart. He could fix anything from being on the farm. So he was called to help people out fixing stuff.
So from what I'm kind of like what I'm gathering. Sorry, I just had a train come past my house. But what I'm kind of gathering, he's almost like a character from like Billy Bob Thornton's character in Sling Blade, where he was a simpleton but was sharp as a razor.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking too.
It's kind of like a got no gas kind of thing. But it's Ed Gein has been linked to some of the most prolific horror characters in cinema history. We have
Absolutely.
anywhere from Texas Chainsaw Massacre of Leatherface to Silence of the Lambs of Buffalo Bill, even to Psycho as Norman Bates. Now,
Yep.
which one, if you could pick one, which one do you think more closely related to him?
I do the Buffalo Bill end. I was asked that the other day as well, just because Buffalo Bill did the same thing. He wanted to be a girl too, and so did Ed. Yeah, that's what Augusta wanted. She wanted a girl, and instead there was a boy. So she always told Ed that, I wish you were a girl.
Now, do you think that the death of Ed's brother kind of had something to do with how she shifted her focus towards Ed?
Well, Henry had a girlfriend, and he wanted to move off the farm, and this girl just happened to have 2 kids, and Augusta, that was against everything Augusta stood for. So they're supposedly out on Henry's land battling a brush fire, and basically Henry died, and Ed ran back to town and brought the cops right back to the spot where he was laying, and he had a big knot on the back of his head, and Ed never got charged with the murder.
Was it supposedly to the confession of Ed that he had no idea what had happened or where he was, but was able to lead the cops right to the body?
Exactly what he did.
So that's kind of suspicious. It actually makes me think of the Gab Petito case, where the parents of Brian Laundrie were like, oh, I have no idea where he's at, but 2 seconds into this woods, they were able to find the notebook, the backpack, everything like that, right to it.
Sure. Yep, that's what Ed did. It was on Henry's land that they found him.
So you think there's a little bit of foul play going on there?
There's no doubt in my mind that he did it. Ed killed him. There's no doubt in my mind.
Now, is that because of jealousy or because he was ripping the family apart?
I think he's ripping the family apart more than he's going against mother's wishes. But I think also Ed wanted his mother to himself.
Okay, fair. I mean, so you that is a very conflicting view there. That's kind of like the Henry's going against mother's wishes, but also Ed wants his mother to himself, and all Henry's trying to do is live his life and be happy.
Yeah, get away from mother.
Are you looking at 2 birds, 1 stone, being like, okay, he's out of the picture, and I get her all to myself?
Exactly. That's what he wanted.
I mean, that's very that's one way to do it, I guess you could say.
Yep. Yep.
So who was Ed's first victim? That was confirmed first victim.
Just froze up.
Nope.
There we are.
There we are.
Who was Ed's what?
Who was Ed's first victim? Confirmed first victim.
Mary Hogan.
Okay. And where was that? How did that happen? How did that transpire?
Mary Hogan had a bar out in Babcock, Wisconsin called the Foxhead Bar. And Ed went there a few times, and she was actually another German, just like her mother. And I guess she has foul mouth and things like that. And he basically, one night after the bar closed, he went back and shot her in the back of the head with a .22 pistol and took her back to the farm. And nobody knew where she was for a couple of years until they found her head.
Okay, now here is the question. So I'm assuming Ed did not make his first murder until after his mother had passed away.
Yes.
Okay. Because hearing the rationale of him going to a bar or him going, these places here and there, it kind of seemed different of what mother would allow him to do. Oh, you froze up there. You with me, Scott? All right. Well,
There we
Scott,
are.
well, oh, there we go. There you are.
Hey.
Damn Wisconsin internet.
So what's the question?
All
Got a
right.
little bit
So,
of it.
like I was saying, it seems like it would obviously have to be after his mother passed away because of the things of him going to a tavern or him going to, do this, do that, whatever would kind of
Yes,
all seem against mother's wishes.
absolutely.
I mean, because she seemed to run a pretty a pretty tight household,
That she
and
did.
and she wanted him just like Norman Bates and his mother. It was at the beck and call. It's like up there ringing the
Yes.
bell, going, "I expect you to respond in 3 seconds."
Yep. Pretty much. That's the way she was.
Now, do you think that his psychosis, I guess you could say, it was because they've tested him for schizophrenia, which in later times was proven that he was schizophrenic. Um, Also, I mean, do you think that that was more brought on by his mother and her teachings and her demeanor and attitude and lessons?
Absolutely. That was all a part of it. In a way, I thought he even heard voices.
He did. There was one report that said that he did claim to see visions,
Yeah.
which is a textbook for a personality disorder and whatnot.
Yeah. He used to think he could raise the dead.
I mean,
So,
not unlike what I've heard some reports to be. So once the police found him, so the downfall to it, how did the police finally link 1 to 2 and end up being back at Mr. Gein's house and uncovering the house of horrors, that you will.
well, it happened on November 16th, 1957, opening day of deer hunting season. Ed decided we're driving to town about 8:30 in the morning to Warden's hardware store because he needed antifreeze. So he went inside, he bought the antifreeze, brought it back out to his car, and he walked back in and asked Bernice Warden if he could see that 22 long rifle in the rack. So he went and grabbed that, or she did. And then she went over and looked out the window at the gas station across the street, and Ed pretty much took the gun and shot her in the back of the head. So what he did is he dragged her out into the warden's truck, which was inside the store in the back, drove out to County BB in the pine trees, parked it, walked back into town, jumped in his car, drove back out to where the truck was, picked up Bernice Warden, put him in her trunk, and he took her out to the farm and basically gutted her like a deer that afternoon. Then he
Okay,
got caught.
so were there witnesses to lead the police in the direction of Gein, or was it kind of like somebody was like, "Oh, I saw Ed walk in there, and then I didn't see Bernice again"?
No, what happened was her son Frank Warden came back from hunting and noticed the store was open, so he walked in there and seen a bunch of blood on the floor. So he started to panic to where was his mother at. I just had to look at the receipt book, and on the receipt book it said Ed Gein antifreeze. So right away he called the cops and said he thinks Ed Gein has her. So they ran out to the Gein farm to look for her, and he wasn't there. He was actually at another house eating supper.
Okay, but the body of Bernice was still in his truck while he was eating supper at another house.
No, basically when he brought her back into his woodshed or summer kitchen, wherever you want to call it, in the back of the house, he hung her up by her legs upside down, and he basically cut her head off and gutted her like a deer. So the cops came by later on that morning, or I should say afternoon, and basically found her in the woodshed.
And of course, that was probable cause to lead to a search of the entire house. And
Yep, found everything.
And so, can for anybody listening out there, can you explain? Like, I have a list here over here on my side notes over here because I'm flipping back and forth here. Um, the several police officers referred to Ed Gein's house as the House of Horrors, something
Yep.
they have never seen before in their lifetime. And even the sheriff, after he testified against Gein, a month later died of a heart attack because what is supposedly because of the stress and what he had seen.
He was about to be questioned about because he roughed up Ed a little bit in the jail cell.
Yep.
So he's going to be talked to about that.
So these police walking into Ed Gein's house in 1957, and you know, us in 2023 these days, and anybody growing up from 1980 to 2000s, we've been desensitized by horror movies. We've seen the gore, we've seen everything like that. But these police officers in the 1957s, they've only seen the black and white movies of Bela Lugosi and Vincent Price and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And those were all like haha fictional, never would happen. When these police officers walk into Ed Gein's farmhouse, what did they find?
No, they walked in there. The place, like I said, did not have electricity. So all they had was flashlights and to walk around, and they found skulls on his bedpost. They found all of his face masks on the window, or I should say on his wall. They found a lampshade made out of skin. They found a chair which had skin on it. I mean, they found the box full of vulvas. Another coffee can is full of noses. This stuff like that. Found a skin suit. Had leggings made out of skin.
One of my favorite ones from this list, and I still I hate to laugh at it because I know these are people, and I don't like to make fun or make joke or make light of a situation. But one of my favorite things on this list is a belt made of female nipples.
Yes, yeah, he did have that.
That just to me is kind of like, okay, that'll be a little difficult to get on, getting caught in the belt loops and everything, but I mean, teach their own.
Yeah, then he had a drawstring or whatever of human lips for a shade,
Yep.
window shade.
Yep. I mean,
quite creative.
This was a man that did not waste any parts. I mean, he used the entire body. And I'm sorry, anybody listening, if you're offended, I'm sorry. It's very interesting to make light of a situation, I guess you could say. It's such a terrifying time. Yep. So Ed was arrested in 1957.
Yes.
He was then let me see here. I'm looking through my notes here real quick. I'm trying to figure out. He was put on trial in what, he was deemed unfit for trial and was confined to multiple psychiatric institutions for evaluation.
Yep.
So he was arrested in 1957. In 1968, it was determined that he could participate in his own defense.
Okay.
But was never set to trial until his death in 1984.
Okay.
He spent 20 years in prison, not able to. Well, he was found guilty of killing Warden.
Yes.
But what I don't understand is reportedly due to financial situations. I don't understand what they mean by financial situations.
Well, the state had to pay for everything. The state didn't have the money or whatever, the town or whatever it was. But he wasn't charged with Mary Hogan's death, even though they found the head. I don't understand that.
Okay, so they admitted him to a mental hospital where he remained until 1984. So he never really spent time in prison.
No.
It was just in a mental asylum.
Yeah, and he's a model patient too.
That's the story going around.
Yep.
I mean, it's just I'm sure he took very kindly to some of the female the nurses and everything like that.
They used to look at him kind of funny, but he didn't say nothing.
I'm not surprised. It's one of those things that I don't know. Ed Gein is a very, very interesting topic because in American history, you consider a serial killer somebody that has been convicted of 3 or more murders.
Yeah.
Ed Gein was only ever convicted of 1,
Yes.
implicated in 2, but they still consider him one of the most prolific killers in America. Now, would you bulk him into the serial killer classification, or would you consider him more of a murder aficionado?
Well, I don't think he was a serial killer by no means. I mean, he basically killed the 2 women. That was it. You don't know he's convicted of the 1. That's a good point there, Darren. I don't know. Never heard that one.
Well, see, here's the thing, though, too. I also looked in to see if Ed Gein was actually ever implicated to be a cannibal, and it was said that he was not.
No, when I was listening to his confession and stuff, reading about it, I noticed in his confessions he never lied about stuff. Everything that was there, he truthful talking about, and he says he never ate anybody because they smelled bad. The embalming fluid. So, but I don't know what he would have done with Bernice Ward. No, I mean he had her gutted out.
Now you are featured now in a new show coming out here. Now episode 2 just came out today. Is
Yes.
Psycho: The Lost Tapes of Ed Gein. So give us a little rundown of like what we can expect from this series. I know it's a 4-part series.
Yeah, they came down from Calgary, Alberta, Canada to start filming. Why they did it in the winter, I don't know. But it was quite cold out one day, and the other day it rained, so it was perfect out. But basically, they have the original tapes from Ed Gein's confession.
Okay.
And you can actually hear his voice, and you want to talk about thinking he was a simple person, you should hear his voice. So it's worth watching. You can actually watch it right now on Amazon for free, on Amazon Prime Video. So otherwise MGM will charge you.
Okay.
But this first part and second part, they finally got into Bernice Warden and Mary Hogan. So I don't know what they're doing for the third and fourth part.
Now, which episode do you make? Because I was going to watch it today, but I kind of wanted to get your backstory of it first and like have this interview before I jumped into this.
So far, I've been in both first and second episode.
Okay. Now, are you going to be featured in 3 or 4, or are you going to?
I don't have no clue. I don't know what they're about. Their guess is as good as mine. So, I mean, they filmed me for 2 days straight walking around the cemetery. So I don't know what they're going to do.
Okay. All right. Well, that's fair. That's definitely. I'm sure you sat down long enough for interviews as well with them.
The first day they sat me down for 2 hours. So they wanted to originally set me down in Plainfield at a bar and talk, and I was like, that ain't happening. Not in Plainfield.
No.
Well, they brought me to Mount Morris, Wisconsin. Well, we got actually where we're filming outside of the hardware store. We actually had 4 cars stop by and start yelling at us. And it's actually in the show too. Somebody yelling outside their window.
Oh wow!
For us to get out of here. So it's quite.
That's
fun.
almost like you being in Wisconsin and sitting down in a bar and saying I'm a Bears fan.
Pretty much. Well, a good shot.
You know, I know how it is because you know, I grew up in Ohio, 25 minutes away from Bath, Ohio, where Jeffrey Dahmer was born and raised. So I know exactly how it is. You know, it's kind of one of those I wouldn't necessarily hometown touches, but it's Jeffrey Dahmer's always associated with Ohio, and even though he did make his first kill in Ohio, he's most prolifically known for his killings in Wisconsin. Yeah. So everybody crazy goes to Wisconsin, right, Jenny?
You have a good reputation.
Keep it over there, please. No, so your first book you have is simply titled Gein. So what the book itself, what is the story of it? Is it just the history of him, the murders, what he was into, you know, kind of giving like a kind of a tell-all, I guess you could say.
Well, like I said in the beginning, I've read every book there was on Ed Gein. There's one thing that my book touches on that no other book does, and that's actually the story of the victims. There's the actual names of these victims. That's why I wanted to put out there, you know, these are mothers and wives, members of the community. And my book tells about those people and their families a little bit. That's what I wanted to put out there. And in the back is actual printout of the court reports and the psychiatrist reports from Mendota. I got off the Washoe County Court computer. So it's a pretty good book. I enjoyed making it.
Good, very good, very good. And now your other book you have is the what is it? The complete
It's a traveler's guide that I put
the
together with
traveler's guide to
addresses.
Ed Gein. Yeah.
Yeah, this way so people can punch in the address on their GPS and find the places.
Now, are the places still accessible to people for the public, or is it mostly like cemetery markers, or do we have actual houses?
The Foxhead Bar is gone. It's just a bunch of trees sitting there now. And basically, after that place was taken down, they planted trees, so you can't even tell where it is anymore.
Okay,
And the same thing with Ed Gein's land. As soon as that house was gone, they basically planted trees, so like nobody could tell where it was.
kind of just forget about it.
Yeah, and the place before used to be posted no trespassing, but I've been out there for a couple weeks in a row, and I don't see no signs anymore. So I don't know.
Now, like because I know with all like especially up here in the New England area, you have the people that want to go, visit the Conjuring house, and up until they sold it to a couple of years ago, there were no trespassing signs and no pictures and things like that, and posted. You know, eh, are there people like Bernice's house that she used to live in? Is that still standing? Is that like
Yeah.
a tourist attraction? I guess you could say.
I don't think it is because I don't think a lot of people think that far back about that. But I actually know where her house is, and I actually went to the Register of Deeds and proved that it was her house. And there's photos of it from way back and when she was killed, so I know it's the house. And it's on the main drag. It's only a couple blocks from the hardware store.
Now the
And it
hardware
was
store is still standing, correct?
the hardware store is there. It's actually being turned into a Mexican restaurant.
Mm, okay, all
That's
right.
only been a couple years old, but eventually it might be one.
I mean, so that it's a good point that's brought up. Do you think that like the town just wants to forget it, or do you think the town owns the notoriety of it?
Town wants it gone. I mean, I brought people up before and I had people write down my license plate number out by his land. You go by the hardware store, you got people coming by yelling stuff out the window. I mean, they don't want nothing to do with Gein whatsoever.
I mean, to think 70 years later and these things are still happening, that it's still in their minds of that.
Well, I'll tell you, a while back, Steve Shippey was out filming a show on the paranormal side of Ed Gein. And I was supposed to be on that show, but I got COVID, so I couldn't. But they went out to his gravesite, and actually a couple of trucks showed up with people's guns and
Oh,
told them to get
wow.
out. And I'll tell you, I go to Ed Gein's gravesite now, and there's still people coming into that cemetery every single day to see that gravesite. I mean, last time somebody left a whiskey bottle for them, flowers, change, work gloves. I've seen it all on top of that gravesite. They're taking dirt.
Yeah.
So it's very, very active spot.
Well, I mean, it's like the same thing up here in the New England area. It's the same thing anywhere. I'm like, you have like Bethesda's grave. You have, unfortunately to say, Ed and Lorraine Warren's grave. That is a big
Oh,
place to
that's
go
huge.
visit. It's one of those things where you have those true crime fanatics that they're going to stop at nothing to get what they want.
Yes.
But, also you have to know where to draw the line on it.
Yeah. Yeah. You gotta definitely have that.
But I mean, I think the town folks showing up in a truck full of people with, with guns and everything is kind of a little bit of overkill.
Yeah. That is. I agree. Glad I wasn't there.
Yeah, that's kind of like almost. I think honestly, with like, what's the population of the town of Plainfield?
Probably about
Right up top of
700.
your head.
700 about.
700. Okay, so probably I'm pretty sure the police department or township or whatever it may be of Plainfield are pretty much just like martial law almost kind of thing. Like everybody takes care of everybody.
Pretty much because you got to remember there's still relatives there of the people that he dug up.
Now,
There are a lot of
have you okay, so you said your books leaped into the relatives. Now, was it just the two people that was killed by Ed Gein, or are you going deeper into it of the bodies that were actually dug up? Have they ever confirmed the bodies that he actually dug up?
Yeah, he actually mentioned the names in his confession on that, which is in the back of the book. But I actually got the names of all the victims in my book in order, and that's what I studied is all the victims, all the 10 people. So that's
Now,
all in the book.
did you reach out to the family of them and to see if they had any comment or anything, or
Not yet, but I'm in the process of talking to Nancy Schley pretty soon, which is
okay,
Sheriff Schley's daughter. So I should be talking to her any day now, hopefully.
okay. So is that kind of like on your track record of trying to track down the people, like the verified bodies that he actually exhumed, and kind of reach out to the families to see if they have any comment on it, that they were related to this case, that how do they feel? I mean, I'm assuming clearly you know how they feel, probably,
Yeah,
but
I'm trying to figure that out.
you know, to see maybe if somebody would be willing to talk.
I have not done that because I ain't got enough balls to do it. I'm afraid of the comeback they're going to do to me.
That is kind of a hard read to be like, hey, so I heard back 70 years ago, this guy dug up your relative and used it
Exactly.
as the poster piece on his headboard. No pun. Like, I'm really not trying to make fun of the situation, but it's kind of like,
Yeah.
how do you approach that conversation?
Yeah, I'd rather have them come to me.
So have you put yourself out there as to, hey, I'm looking for information of anyone involved?
So I've been there quite a bit. I go through that town quite a bit and talk to people.
Okay.
But
Now, have any leads come from that, or do you think it's more of like a Vietnam PTSD thing where they just don't want to talk about it?
I don't think they want to talk about it. They want me gone.
They kind of just want it to be dead and done
Yes.
and over with.
Exactly.
Wow. Okay. All right. Well, because I know, like with the whole docu series that Netflix did on Jeffrey Dahmer, you know, they interviewed a lot of the actual family members of the victims.
Yeah.
And a lot of the family members were actually very upset that they were even profiling this or making it such a big deal and making him the star of it when it was the victims. And what I took out of that series, because I watched that from the back almost in a night.
Sure.
And what I took from that series was they weren't necessarily starlighting Jeffrey Dahmer. They were starlighting the victims and telling their stories.
Absolutely.
And that's what it was. And you know what? There are some people that don't want their stories told because of the horrendous acts and everything like that. But also, it's these days, and I hate to say it, and I really don't want to say it, but I'll say it anyways. People are looking for a cash grab.
Oh, God, yes.
If they can be like, oh, yeah, my relative was murdered by, Jack the Ripper, who's never been caught. But I mean, I can guarantee you it was Jack the Ripper that did it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you're going to pay me $1,500 to sit down in front of a camera for half an hour? I'm there.
Sure.
Like, I mean, you're going to have those people out there. And then you're going to have those people out there that are going to be like, oh, yeah, I'm related to somebody's brother, sister, twice removed cousin that had a beer with this guy in a bar that knew this person that was related to him. And yeah, I'll sit down and talk to you. What's your price?
Exactly.
So it's really hard to kind of suss out the real people. And that's where it comes in as researchers, as you know yourself, of kind of getting the facts of like, is this real? Is this person, on the up and up? Do we actually have a blood relative or a lineage relative of this person?
Yeah.
And that's where all your tools with the county records and everything like that come in handy.
Yeah, I did a lot on ancestry.com, so I know the kids and stuff they had, so it'd be kind of easy to find them.
Also, kind of in a bad way, kind of creepy at your point, having some guy just email you going, hey, by the way, I'm writing a book on your great grandfather.
Exactly. Exactly. Hate to knock on the door and ask that question.
Oh, I just noticed this. There's a 666 carved into Ed Gein's tombstone.
Yeah.
That's lovely. Is that still the original tombstone?
That's the original one right there. It's all chipped away too.
So everybody was going up to it with the chisel and just taking a piece of the tombstone.
Absolutely. They're doing it to his mother's now.
I'm surprised they actually even buried him.
Well, he's in a cement vault. So is his mother. That's why he couldn't dig her up. He tried a couple times, but he couldn't do it. Cement.
Okay, so they have the headstone, so that's the only thing they can get to, not the body.
Well, The headstone's in that guy's basement, so if they were decided to get rid of it, who knows what will happen. I heard they're going to bury it.
Well, let's hope it goes to a museum because, unfortunately, as sad as it is, that is a part of American history.
That it is.
You know, so with that being said, all the psychosis from his mother, like, of course, anybody who's listening, Ed Gein his role was based off of Leatherface from Texas Chainsaw Massacre because of the obvious reasons. Norman Bates for his love of his mother, and now the thing I have with Norman Bates is because the story that I believe Psycho was done by Alfred Hitchcock.
Yes.
Okay. So back then, hearing that story was just, Alfred Hitchcock's one of the masters of horror, and he's always going to go down as one of the masters of horror.
Absolutely.
And now, the way Psycho was portrayed was that Norman Bates kept his mother in his bed, in her bedroom, in a rocking chair, until she was nothing but a skeleton. Now, how long before Augusta was found that she was dead?
I never heard the story on that one. I can't even speculate on that one. I have no clue. I don't know if she died in bed or where she died.
I mean, there was a story that he dug her up and took her head.
He couldn't get to her. She was in a cement vault.
Yeah, because one of the stories I read was that he dug her up and took her head.
No.
Okay. All right.
That makes me laugh.
There's one story debunked.
Yep.
But so the whole Psycho thing, because Norman Bates with his love for his mother and everything, and he would do anything for his mother. Yep. But this is also a very interesting, perplexing thing, is the Buffalo Bill reference to it, because Buffalo Bill was very much a singleton, almost, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
But he was very smart.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he was breeding death moths. He had this well in his basement. He, knew human anatomy and things like that. Like, it's kind of like, and it really speaks volumes actually to these days because, and no offense to anybody out there, and I feel like I've been saying this quite often tonight, but people with mental disorders or spectrum disorders or on the autistic side may be very simplicated in emotions and actions and things like that. But internally, they are very smart.
Sure.
Very, very smart. I mean, you put a medical book in front of me of dissecting a human being or whatever, I could sit there for a year and look at it and still know nothing different.
Exactly.
But these people have the ability to be able to absorb this information and carry it over into, these profound circumstances and actually be able to apply it to real life issues.
Yeah.
I mean, no offense, anybody can, kill and gut a deer. I mean, that's kind of like if you grew up in the country, deer hunting or even any sort of hunting, it's kind of, what to do.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, so in your travel and study of Ed Gein, what personally was the biggest thing you took away from the story?
Well, back in the day, he used to read true crime himself. And he has actually, during World War II and stuff, he'd read about the atrocities at the Auschwitz and things like that. And there's this one female German guard that used to actually collect skin herself and make a lampshade or put it in the seat of a chair. Inga something, I can't think of her last name. And that's where he got that idea from. And he also used to read about the people out in the Philippines, whatever, shrinking heads. That's the stuff he kind of read.
See, I did hear a report about how his plan was to dig up his mother and get her head and try to shrink it.
Yeah. I haven't heard that one.
It was some article I read from Google or something like that. So I mean, we all know if it's on the internet, it must be true, right?
Right.
You know, but I guess what what I'm going to ask though is, what is the thing from Ed Gein's story that one attracts you to it the most, to want to dedicate 10 years of your life to write about this topic? Is it his personality? Is it his horrid crimes that he did, or is it the sympathy of the victims?
It's basically, I want to know is why he did it. The psych. I mean, what was he? What made him do it all? That was my drive. Because that's what the ultimate thing to do to a person, cut them up. I mean, seriously, why does he do it?
See what makes them tick.
Exactly. That's what I wanted.
I mean,
so
that's going to be a question that's never going to be answered. And I mean, is there any remaining relatives left of the Gein family at all?
Well, interesting story. One actually just showed up at the museum a few weeks ago. She actually came over from Germany and was a cousin with the last name of Gein. I think they say it Gein back there in Germany.
Okay.
And she was actually in her 40s, showed up at the museum and introduced herself who she was. She was the cousin of Ed Gein, and talked to her. She just said their family is not allowed to talk about it. So I kind of like to see if she's on Facebook, if I can contact her and see what she would happen to know about the family. So that's kind of my next step I'm going to do.
That would be very interesting if it is actually true, like, because you can't put all your eggs in one basket off of one verbal thing, because you have those people out there everywhere that are like, oh yeah, I was related to this person and I did this and I know this person and whatnot, but all it takes is a simple Google search to figure that out.
Yeah.
You may know the story, but
I just don't know, given her age, if she would have been around, even known them.
I mean, 57 is now 2023, so that's what, 60 some years?
Yeah,
and she's
so
only 40.
Yeah.
Because, well, I mean, technically she could have been, considering well, no, she couldn't have been. She would have only heard stories from her father or mother or whoever the relative would have been.
Exactly.
So it's all secondhand stories. And now that when she says that the family's really not allowed to talk about it, your chances there are just diminished completely.
Well, the only thing that kind of debunks even her is when George, his last name was actually Geee.
Yeah.
And after his parents and stuff got killed in that accident, he changed his name to Gein. And Augusta came from Germany, and her last name wasn't Gein. So how does this lady say her last name is Gein, being related?
Yeah, that's kind of sounds like somebody's looking for a 15 minutes of fame kind of thing.
Could be.
Honestly, it could be, considering they're like, oh, I'm related, but I can't talk about it.
Yeah.
What do you have to offer, though?
Yeah, could be.
Unfortunately, that's the bad thing. So,
yeah.
Well, Scott, it's been great talking to you, and the true crime world is just getting bigger and bigger by the day. I know you're personally connected to Ed Gein because your locality to the area. I'd love to live 30 miles away from him, where the place is. Are you planning on going down a deep dive of any other of the America's crime syndicates or prolific killers?
Well, I actually got a YouTube channel coming out, debuting September 29th. I'm going to be talking about Ed Gein, and it's going to be called Wisconsin True Crime. And after I'm done with the Gein series, I'll dive into something else.
Okay. All right. Are you diving into another Wisconsin of Dahmer possibly, or?
The Dahmer would be a big one, but there's another killer out there that I think killed, because they tried to get Ed Gein for Jesse Winkler and a couple other victims, but he denied it. And I kind of think about who did it. I can't think of the guy's name in my head, but I'm going to go off of him. I think
Okay.
he's in the southern half of Wisconsin. So
Darren in the chat room makes a good point. He thinks that Ed didn't know what he wanted to be sexually.
I agree with that.
Like he didn't know, well, because the reports say his mother always wanted a girl.
Exactly.
And she was disappointed when she had 2 boys.
Yes.
So I think Ed was the most convincible and able to be groomed, I guess you could say.
I agree.
While Henry went off on his own and kind of, wanted to live his life and live a normal life. And we see how far that got him, just at the edge of his property line.
Yes.
But all right, Scott, we'll tell everybody coming up here where they can see you, where they can catch you, where they can find you. Hopefully not in handcuffs like Ed Gein did, unfortunately, in 1957. But where can they see you next? I know you just did an event last week.
I was at can't think of it off the top of my head. I was in Glenbeulah on Saturday for a little while. And shout out to Jay Millen for selling some of my books that day. But October 7th, I'm going to be at Rock Island, Illinois. I'm actually going to have a table set up there. So anybody come meet me and stuff. And I'll have books out there I can autograph for the folks. And next weekend, I'm actually going to be at the Old Baraboo Inn for the event. I'm not going to set up. I'm actually going to go to the paranormal stuff and do some investigating.
That's
Take
awesome.
some time off.
Yeah, kind of take a break from it a little bit.
Yep.
No, I definitely need to get a hold of you because when I do buy your books, I want them autographed. But I don't see myself making it out to Wisconsin anytime soon.
Yeah, there, Jenny. Yeah, not a problem.
So maybe I'll have Jenny buy them for me and have her autograph them, or have you autograph them while she's there, and she can just mail them to me.
That'll work. That'll work.
That would be the easiest way to do it.
Yep.
So where can they find you on Facebook, YouTube, anything like that?
Facebook, they can just punch in my name, Scott Bowser, and find me and instant message me that way. I usually respond pretty quick. Otherwise, like I said, my YouTube channel starts September 29th, Wisconsin True Crime. They can find me on there.
Which is only 5 days away. So let's get a big following right now for Scott out on his YouTube channel, Wisconsin True Crime. And everybody that's liking this page and listening to this, go over to YouTube, like and subscribe to that one. Let's get him a good following going on for that. Another true crime aficionado.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's always great to have a new guest on the show and kind of bring a different light to the show of whether it just be metaphysical and paranormal. So it's great to kind of dive into, and I hate to say the darker side of things, but, without the dark, you can't see the light. So you wouldn't have history without the darkness.
Yep.
So, Scott, it was great talking to you.
You too.
Thank you so much for coming on for short notice. And Jenny, thank you so much for getting Scott for us. I believe it was a great show, and I think it's going to be one of the highest rated shows we've had. Can't wait to read the books, and I actually can't wait for some point because I know Jenny's going to kidnap my ass at some point and fly me out to Wisconsin. So I'll probably meet you at some point or another along our travels.
Sure, take you on a tour.
Exactly. Yeah, I'd love to do that. If you take me on a tour of where all over Ed Gein, I would probably be in heaven.
That I can do.
All right, Scott. Thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it so much.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, guys. So next week, and I'm going to completely butcher this gentleman's name. So next week, we have Jeff Iganowski, I believe his name is. He is a creator of multiple serial killer, true crime, board games, card games, everything in between. Definitely a game that you definitely want to check out. So he will be our guest next week. Once again, I really want to thank our sponsors that we have: Get Haunted Network, Expedition Entities, Warner Paranormal Preservation Society. God, so many other people out there that Enchanted Awakenings. I'm sorry, Jenny, sorry, Bonnie. It's been a day already. Today was my day off, and I went into 3 hours, so there's that. But guys, thank you so much again for listening, and you guys are absolutely amazing. we could not do this without you guys, and absolutely appreciate you guys so much. So next week, same time, same place, same ugly faces. We'll be here to annoy you even more. See you guys later.
Looking for a unique paranormal experience? The Haunted Rock Island YMCA Paracon, October 7th, from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. is just the event you're looking for. You will have the opportunity to investigate the Haunted Rock Island YMCA with ACG Paranormal. Visit with over 60 paranormal and metaphysical vendors from 8 or more states. And pre-order your t-shirts at dvinar@aol.com. Visit a psychic gallery reading, mediums, tea leaf reading, animal communication, dream interpretation, aura reading, tarot and oracle card readings, or get a Reiki healing. See a demonstration of the Estes method by Carly Bird. Presentations by Nick Simons and Aaron G. Thompson of 28 Days Haunted, Greg Bakken from Ghostbox Radio, and headliner Rick Hayes, along with many folks you'll see on Paraflix. Be sure to like and follow our sponsors: Paraflix, WLTK DB Talk Radio LLC, Studio 6 Productions, Unturned Pages, and Ocean Eye Crystals. General admission is only $5, and all proceeds go directly to the Haunted Rock Island YMCA. For more information on the Haunted Rock Island YMCA Paracon and vendors, look for them on Facebook under Events.